Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a spirited defense of Israel's military operations in Gaza during a joint session of U.S. Congress on Wednesday. The address came nearly 10 months into the ongoing conflict that erupted after a Hamas attack on Israel on October 7, 2023. As Netanyahu spoke, parts of the U.S. Capitol were occupied by protesters, showcasing the divided opinions on Israel's actions. Netanyahu's speech did not shy away from bold claims, some of which have been identified as misleading or lacking context. He accused Iran of funding anti-Israel protests, stating, "Iran is funding the anti-Israel protests that are going on right now outside this building. You have officially become Iran's useful idiots." However, U.S. intelligence has only confirmed that Iran is encouraging these protests without evidence of direct financial support. During his remarks, Netanyahu maintained that humanitarian aid was not being blocked by Israel, but rather stolen by Hamas. He claimed, "If there are Palestinians in Gaza who aren't getting enough food, it's not because Israel is blocking it, it's because Hamas is stealing it." This assertion fails to align with reports from U.S. and international officials, which cite restrictions enforced by the Israel Defense Force at checkpoints as a primary reason for the scarcity of aid. Protesters took to the streets of Washington, D.C., with some displaying intense hostility. At Union Station, agitators burned an American flag and vandalized a Christopher Columbus statue with "Hamas is coming." A Jewish man who was offended by the language was chased down the street and called Hitler by the protesters. The tension was palpable, with protesters yelling "Free Palestine" and "From the river to the sea," a slogan calling for the elimination of Israel. Inside the Capitol, sentiment was equally charged. Democratic Representative Rashida Tlaib held up a sign labeling Netanyahu a war criminal during his speech. Capitol Police arrested 6 individuals inside the House gallery for unlawful conduct after they disrupted the session. On Pennsylvania Avenue, more protesters gathered, chanting phrases like "Bibi, Bibi, we're not done. The Intifada has just begun." The discourse surrounding Netanyahu's remarks has been fraught with friction. He claimed that the war in Gaza had the lowest ratio of civilian to combatant casualties in history, yet such statements lack verifiable data. The conflict's toll has been severe, with more than 39,000 Palestinians killed, according to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health in Gaza, a figure that cannot be independently verified due to restricted media access. Netanyahu's response to calls for a ceasefire was firm, asserting, "The war in Gaza could end tomorrow if Hamas surrenders, disarms, and returns all the hostages." Critics argue that ceasing hostilities is more complex than Netanyahu suggests, with many international voices calling for a sustainable and peaceful resolution. Throughout his address, Netanyahu sought to portray Israel as acting with restraint and precision, minimizing civilian casualties and ensuring aid delivery. Yet, this narrative contrasts sharply with independent reports and international criticism, highlighting the complexities and contested narratives of the Gaza conflict.